so that, and a big hello to our asynchronous audience who is going to listen to this, or of course the synchronous audience will be wanting to replay these words of wisdom from our moderator and your questions later on. So Athabasca University is pleased to sponsor this Open Access Week. We've had four great presentations. They're all recorded, and I'll ask Tony to punch in the URL where those recordings are available so that you can recommend them to some of your colleagues who don't happen to be here. And without further ado, I think I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. He's generously added my name to the bottom, but because I've done a presentation or two on open education resources, and we sort of, in the spirit of open resource sharing, we pooled our slides together, which is why you see that number of 60 slides, which means Rory's going to be going quickly through those. Rory McGreal is a good friend of mine and colleague at Athabasca University. He's the Associate Vice President of Research and has been involved in securing many of the research projects at Athabasca University. He's a scholar in his own right. He's in educational technology. He's published on learning objects as quite an influential book on learning objects, and he does research on mobile learning, as well as having a strong background in distance education from running Teleeducation New Brunswick and Contact North in former lifetimes. Rory is active on the keynote circuit and well known around the world, and he's presently got a bug in his bonnet about open educational resources. So we'll turn the mic over to him. You can't interrupt him directly because he has to release the mic. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand by the little green arrow at the bottom of the participant window, and then he will click off and turn the mic over to you, or you can put in a text comment. So welcome, Rory.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you for that kind introduction, Terry, and thank you, Tony, for organizing these weekly sessions. May I assume that you just want me to continue on then?
Yes, go right ahead, Rory.
Will do. Today's topic is open educational resources, as it's been all week, and I'd like to introduce myself, and there's Terry, as open scholars. So we're trying to push open scholarship as much as possible and promote it among different institutions. And why are we doing this? And the key point is that we believe that the world's knowledge is a public good in general, and we are supported in this belief by the original meaning of copyright, and basically that works belong to the public and that authors have a right to exploit that work for a limited period of time. Today, the World Wide Web in particular is providing an extraordinary opportunity for everyone in the world to share, use, and reuse the world's knowledge. And again, this is being promoted very much by the Hewlett Foundation and the Open Educational Resources. Here's a question for everyone, because you quite often hear about people talking about how technology is destroying human community, etc. And what technology has done more to destroy human community than any other? And I'd like you to just think about that for a while. The car, yes. The airplane, yes. And of course, if you were in the U.S., some people would say the gun. Landmines, the air conditioner, a great group. Well, let me suggest to you what the technology I believe has done more to destroy human community. And could it be the portable book? And Albertus Manutius came up with the idea of the book that anyone could have. It wasn't Gutenberg. Gutenberg came up with a book that was locked in at the front of the lecture room. But Albertus Manutius came up with the portable book that anyone could. And once this book became popular, people could then learn without entering into a human community. And they could learn on their own, and that's why these books were banned from universities in Europe for about 150 years, because they destroyed the community. And that's a thought to think about as we're discussing open education resources. Of course, the definition from UNESCO is the open provision of educational resources enabled by information and communications technologies and available for use and adaptation. So that's the key, and one of the key words there is not just use, but adaptation. So the idea is that your open educational resource, if you put on your license that other people can adapt it, it's not really a full open educational resource according to the UNESCO definition. Types of open education resources can be many, from learning objects to units of study, textbooks, scholarly articles. For example, ERODL, the International Review of Research and Distance Learning. Multimedia objects can be open education resources, so it can be courses, programs, full curriculum. It can be tools, free and open source tools. So there's quite a range of items that can be considered open educational resources. And the idea of granularity comes in here, where the resources can come in many sizes. So, for example, it could be a simple photograph or a diagram. It can be articles from open access publications, a game or a simulation, a multimedia, unit of learning. For example, the IMS Learning Design supports units of learning. Lessons, modules, courses, and full program. So you come from one tiny object. For example, this one provided to us by Norm Friesen is here's an example of an open education resource. This photograph is open because it's in the public domain. It was produced in 1839. And this could be used for open education in a module about Paris or about the year 1839, about architecture, about photography, etc., etc. And the interesting thing about this photo is that if you look in the bottom left corner, you'll see a man having his shoes shined. And this is the first picture of a human being that we have, the earliest known picture of a human being. So again, this would be considered an open education resource. So you put these, if we refer to those as components, we put them into lessons. And again, the whole lesson is an educational resource. And you put the lessons into modules, and the modules are also at a different level of granularity. And you put the modules into a course, again another level, and even a program. So all of these, at whatever level of granularity, could be considered open education resources, even to the extent of a full program can be made available open and free on the internet. So, the open education resources are open. That means they can be augmented, you can add to them, you can edit them, you can customize them, they can be aggregated, they can be reformatted, and the whole idea on the internet is the idea of mashups. And so when you have an open